Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're moving past the glossy brochures, the hype around Pharma 4.0. We're really aiming to cut straight to an actionable blueprint for digital transformation. And specifically, we're looking at that tricky middle ground, the mid-size pharmaceutical manufacturing plant.
Right. Not the giants with unlimited budgets, but, the facilities where careful planning is key.
Exactly. And the sources we've pulled together for you, they're incredibly detailed. They get that everyone agrees, okay, digitization is needed. But the real sticking point is the how. How do you actually do it? How do you transform while keeping compliance, GXP, patient safety, all of that absolutely non-negotiable?
That's it.
So we've got a clear, phased roadmap, the tech stack you'll likely need, and crucially, a deep dive into the security architecture. Getting that sensitive OT data, shop floor data safely up to the cloud.
And that's the mission for us today. Let's try to extract a practical, sustainable roadmap from all this. This isn't about just, throwing money at shiny new tech. It's about managed transformation, step by step, designed to give you tangible benefits.
Like what specifically?
Well, we're talking continuous process control, really getting a handle on that, speeding up time to market for new therapies, which is huge, and of course, rock-solid quality and compliance woven through the whole thing.
Okay, let's unpack this transformation journey then. Starting with the path the sources recommend. This 5-phase blueprint seems tailored for these mid-sized places.
Yeah, for a mid-sized company trying to do it all at once, a big bang approach, it's usually just too risky, too expensive.
Yeah.
So these 5 phases, they allow for a more methodical balance. You're balancing investment against risk and, importantly, making sure the workforce is ready for each step.
Okay, phase 1, sounds like it starts with some homework, assessment and strategy.
That's right. You've got to know where you are before you decide where you're going.
So evaluating current systems, processes, how data flows or doesn't flow right now.
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize using a structured approach here. Something like the ISPE Pharma 4.0 digital plant maturity model.
Okay, to map out the gaps.
Precisely. Where are the digitization gaps? Where are systems not talking to each other? The goal here is to nail down clear business objectives and set some initial KPIs for what success looks like.
Makes sense. Get your baseline. So once you know the gaps, phase 2 kicks in, quick wins and pilot projects.
Yeah, quick wins. The idea is to target areas that give you a good impact but are, let's say, manageable and validation ready.
Like what sort of areas?
Oh, it could be moving from paper to electronic batch records in one specific area, or maybe setting up digital deviation management, or maybe predictive maintenance on one really critical, expensive piece of equipment.
Okay, I like quick wins. But, we're in a regulated space. Even a pilot needs validation, documentation. So that's not always quick. How do you balance that push for fast ROI with the compliance overhead?
That is the essential challenge, you're right. The key is very careful scope selection for these pilots. They absolutely must prove measurable ROI, and they have to demonstrate better compliance, maybe improving data integrity right off the bat, for example.
So it's a dual goal.
Exactly. If a pilot can't deliver provable improvements and meet the regulatory bar efficiently, you probably need to rethink it or scrap it. Phase 2 is all about building that internal momentum, getting buy-in before you commit to bigger things.
Okay, so successful pilots build the case, which leads nicely into phase 3, process standardization and scale up.
Right. You take what worked in the pilot, the successful methods, and you standardize them.
Across different departments, maybe different product lines.
Yes. And this is where you update your SOPs, you train more people, you establish proper digital governance structures. It's expanding that digitization footprint, production, packaging, even into supply chain logistics.
Got it. So phases 1, 2, 3 are about building the foundation, improving the concept. What about 4 and 5?
Phases 4 and 5 are where you really start leveraging the intelligence. Phase 4 is advanced integration. Now you're linking all those standardized digital systems together, you're bringing in more advanced analytics, maybe AI, you're implementing more sophisticated cybersecurity, which we'll definitely talk more about, and you start building out initial digital twin models.
Okay, connecting the dots. And phase 5.
Optimization. Continuous optimization. You use that wealth of integrated data, those advanced analytics, to constantly fine-tune processes, improve yields, and, really importantly, keep benchmarking the ROI to justify the ongoing investment.
It really sounds like the success of all 5 phases hinges completely on having the right tech backbone underneath it all, one that can handle this regulated data flow properly. So what does that essential tech stack foundation actually look like for a Pharma 4.0 setup?
Yeah, it's definitely an integrated stack, and it's all built around enabling that secure data flow. So at the base, you need real-time data generation. That means things like IoT platforms, industrial Internet of Things, and good industrial-grade sensors.
Pulling data from critical points,
Yeah.
temperature, pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Temperature, pressure, flow rates, whatever is critical. Feeding that data into the system reliably. Then you need secure, scalable cloud infrastructure.
Like AWS, Azure, those kinds of platforms.
Precisely. Something that can handle the sheer volume of data you'll generate. Big data requires that scalability. And then you have the analytics layer sitting on top. That's your high-powered analytics tools, maybe AI, machine learning algorithms running in the cloud, looking for anomalies, predicting failures, that sort of thing.
And then beyond just the data infrastructure, you need the tools that actually, physically do things or virtually model them. This includes the automation components, right?
Oh, absolutely. The automation layer is key. That includes robotics, maybe collaborative robots, cobots working alongside people, and also things like RPA, robotic process automation.
For automating paperwork.
Yeah, automating document handling, maybe quality review processes, freeing up people. And then you layer on the really powerful intellectual tools, digital twins for simulation and blockchain solutions. Blockchain is becoming almost mandatory for secure supply chain traceability.
That's a lot of tech.
Yeah.
And adopting it requires a cultural shift, right? Way bigger than just installing some new hardware. What kind of mindset change do the sources say is essential to make this stick?
They call it the smart manufacturing mindset. And it seems to rest on 4 core principles. First, seamless data sharing, thinking of data as a central asset, making it easy and frictionless to exchange between systems and people who need it.
Okay, number 2.
Second, hyperautomation, using bots, AI, RPA, whatever tools fit, to take over repetitive, mundane tasks. That frees up your skilled staff for more creative problem solving, innovation, process improvement.
Makes sense. Let technology do the grunt work.
Third is real-time analytics, moving away from looking at reports from last week or last month towards instantly identifying trends, especially failure trends or deviations as they happen.
And the 4th.
Finally, digitalization and paperless operations. This one is huge for compliance. It directly improves data integrity, think LCOA plus principles, by getting rid of risky manual transcription steps.
Right, LCOA plus a bin. Attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate, plus the complete, consistent, enduring, available. Going paperless helps tick those boxes.
Definitely.
And, none of this happens without buy-in from the top brass. Leadership can't just dictate this. They have to really champion it.
Absolutely. The sources stress this leadership mindset. It has to be one of change advocacy, focusing on agility.
Agility,
Yeah.
meaning moving away from those rigid, old-school batch systems.
Exactly. Towards more flexible, adaptive manufacturing platforms, ones that can respond much faster to changing market demands, especially with the rise of personalized medicine. Continuous learning in digital tools is also key for everyone, leadership included.
Okay, let's pull the thread on one of the most powerful and maybe sometimes conceptually confusing tools in that stack you mentioned, the digital twin. This idea of creating a virtual replica of a physical process or even a whole system. It seems critical for really unlocking that optimization potential in phases 4 and 5.
It really is transformative. I think the power comes from it being a zero-risk sandbox. Think about it. Traditionally, if you wanted to tweak, say, the temperature profile in a reactor to try and boost yield, what did you have to do?
A physical test batch.
Yeah.
Costly, time-consuming, potentially risky if it goes wrong.
Right. With the twin, you simulate it first, virtually. You test different parameters, see the predicted outcome without touching the actual production line. That's how you get powerful process optimization. It reduces all that physical testing, helps ensure quality control is dialed in, lets you test changes without disrupting anything.
And predictive maintenance, we hear about that a lot. Using sensor data in the twin to predict equipment failure before it shuts down the line. That's a huge benefit.
Huge. But the sources pointed out a couple of applications that felt, well, genuinely next level. Let's look at the first one they highlighted. Scale up and tech transfer.
Getting a new drug from the lab into full production. That's always a bottleneck, isn't it?
It's critical and historically very slow. Scaling up from R&D scale to commercial manufacturing involves painstaking, step-by-step physical validation runs, qualification batches. It takes ages and costs a fortune.
So the twin helps how?
The digital twin lets engineers model that new production process virtually. They can simulate how the molecule will behave at a larger scale under different conditions. You can validate the process design itself, test if the plant equipment has the capacity, even train operators on the new process virtually. It can dramatically speed up time to market.
That acceleration is massive.
Okay.
But the second application you mentioned, this one felt even more surprising. It shifts the focus completely away from the factory floor onto the patient. Clinical trials and personalized medicine.
Exactly. Pharma manufacturing is increasingly moving towards personalized therapies, sometimes even individualized N-of-1 therapies. Digital twins can actually be used to simulate patient responses. By integrating really complex data, we're talking genetic markers, lifestyle data, maybe environmental factors,
Wow.
they build what are essentially virtual patient cohorts.
So you can test drugs on virtual people?
Sort of. It allows researchers to test different dosing strategies or optimize the design of clinical trial protocols in silico, meaning in the computer simulation. This could potentially reduce the size, the duration, maybe even the cost of real-world clinical trials. When you think about personalized medicine, this capability makes advanced analytics in twins not just efficient, but potentially essential.
That really changes the game.
And ultimately, the digital twin becomes this amazing tool for continuous control, for remote monitoring, even for automated regulatory documentation, which loops back to ensuring you're hitting GXP and those critical ALCOA plus principles.
Okay, that connection to GXP and LCOA plus brings us squarely to maybe the most complex piece of this puzzle: data compliance and security. The ultimate challenge here isn't just deploying the tech, it's designing that secure, compliant data pathway. Getting data from the regulated OT side, the PLCs, the SCADA systems on the factory floor, all the way up to the cloud analytics platforms without compromising anything.
It absolutely is the core challenge. You're moving highly regulated data from what's often been a very isolated environment, the OT network, into a highly connected one. The architecture has to protect the integrity and confidentiality of that data every single step of the way.
So the sources recommend a deliberately layered architecture for this.
Yes, layers are key. The first layer is edge data aggregation. The OT systems themselves, or maybe local industrial PCs, gather and aggregate the validated data right there at the edge, close to the source.
And to get data from, say, different brands of PLCs talking the same language.
That's where you need real-time data brokers. Things like MQTT or OPC-UA are common standards. They act like translators, taking proprietary industrial protocols and mapping them into a single, unified namespace that the rest of your IT systems can understand.
Okay, data aggregated and unified at the edge. What's the next layer?
Secure network segmentation. This is non-negotiable. You cannot have your OT network directly exposed to your corporate IT network or the public cloud.
Firewalls, DMZs.
Exactly. Firewalls, demilitarized zones, VLANs, whatever it takes to strictly segregate these environments. Why? Because that separation is a direct requirement under regulations like FDA's 21 CFR Part 11. You need those stringent access controls and audit trail.
Makes sense. Protect the control network.
And once data has to leave that secured OT perimeter to go towards the cloud, it absolutely must travel via highly encrypted channels. We're talking TLS, HTTPS, maybe VPN tunnels, ensuring both confidentiality, nobody can snoop on it, and integrity, nobody can tamper with it en route.
Okay, edge aggregation, network segmentation, encrypted transport. Then it hits the data pipeline itself.
Right. And this involves setting up what are called ETL workflows. Extract, transform, load.
Extract from the source, load into the target system. What about the transform step?
The T transformation is critical here. It's not just about cleaning up the data or changing formats. It must include validation logic. You're confirming data fidelity, checking for errors or anomalies before it gets used for analysis or decision-making.
And this whole pipeline needs to be GXP compliant.
The entire pipeline. That means integrated, role-based access controls who can do what, comprehensive audit trails, who did what when, and applying digital signatures at key points in the process to lock down data authenticity.
Wow, okay. That's the path from OT to cloud. What about securing the wider supply chain? You mentioned blockchain earlier.
Yes. For managing that end-to-end traceability and security from raw materials coming in the door all the way to the finished drug reaching the patient, the sources really point towards blockchain solutions. The goal is secure, tamper-proof tracking of batches. This is critical for meeting those LCOA plus data integrity goals and also specific regulations like the FDA's DSCSA, the Drug Supply Chain Security Act.
Blockchain gets talked about a lot, sometimes feels like hype, but implementing it in a regulated GXP environment, that sounds incredibly complex. What about validating it under, say, GAMP5 guidelines? Validating a decentralized network, that seems like a massive undertaking.
It is complex, no doubt about it, but arguably necessary for the level of trust required. Implementation needs really careful architecture design. You're typically not using a public blockchain like Bitcoin. You'd use a private or a consortium network, a permission one where you know exactly who has the authority to write to the ledger.
Okay, so controlled access.
Right. Then you have to design smart contracts, basically automated scripts on the blockchain to handle things like registering batch events, logging quality checks automatically. And yes, validation is a heavy lift. GAMP5 principles need to be applied. You have to validate the integrity and function of those smart contracts, the security of the network's decentralized access controls, ensuring every transaction hash which guarantees the data hasn't been tampered with is immutable and traceable, meeting 21 CFR Part 11 standards for electronic records and signatures.
So the overhead is high.
The overhead is definitely high. But the potential payoff is achieving a level of end-to-end trust and transparency in the supply chain that traditional paper-based or even centralized digital systems could likely never match.
Okay, we've really covered a lot of ground here, from that initial strategic assessment right down to the nitty-gritty of validated smart contracts on a blockchain. If we boil it down, the core insight we've pulled from these sources seems crystal clear. Pharma 4.0 isn't about just grabbing the shiniest new tech off the shelf.
No, not at all.
It's about systematically structuring that transition, using those 5 phases we talked about.
Yeah.
And maybe most crucially, it's about designing GXP compliance into every single layer of the new technology architecture, making sure data integrity is baked in right from the OT level all the way up.
Exactly. So what does this all really mean at the end of the day? I think the strategic impact of taking this structured approach is achieving a kind of dynamic balance. You're leveraging incredibly powerful technological advancements, AI, digital twins, blockchain, while at the same time maintaining and often actually improving your continuous regulatory rigor.
And the ultimate focus stays where it should be.
On patient outcomes, driving process improvements that lead to safer, higher quality, and increasingly personalized therapies for the people who need them.
That's a perfect summary. And, the sources consistently hammered home agility and flexibility as core mindset principles needed for success. If you just look at where the whole industry is heading towards personalized medicine, which inherently requires smaller, faster, much more adaptable production runs this digital transformation, it stops looking optional, doesn't it?
It becomes unavoidable.
Right. So consider this. How tools like the digital twin, which we learn can model virtual patient cohorts, or advanced real-time analytics that enable rapid batch release, how these aren't just, optional efficiency boosters anymore. They're becoming absolutely essential infrastructure for the future of how pharmaceutical manufacturing actually works. Something to think about.